Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Today, we are speaking with Shara Ruffin. Shara is the owner of Journey to Licensure LLC, a best selling author and podcaster. She helps social workers obtain licensing in record time and at a 99% success rate so they can continue to help others at the highest level. And so, we are so happy to have you with us, Shara. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate and love being here.
All right, folks, we will be speaking about leading with the heart, insights from social work leaders. And I can't wait to get into that conversation. But before we get into that, Shara, share a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am a clinical social worker, been in social work for about almost 20 years. I have been doing consulting work as well as entrepreneurship for about the last 3 years, 3 months. Um, so what was also mentioned is that I also work for LinkedIn as a LinkedIn advisor. I also am a best-selling author. I am CEO and founder of Journey to Licensure that helps social workers do their board exams as well as professional development, as well as giving them training regarding how to leverage platforms such as LinkedIn to increase their productivity, professional development beyond even social work to leverage for their professional development. As well as I also am a mommy of three, so I'm pretty busy, as well as being just an author and actually writing a few more books. So my business has been in Business Insider, Success Magazine, USA Today, and will be in Entrepreneur Magazine next month. So doing pretty good, and just trying to impact as many social workers as possible. So
Absolutely. And I've seen that journey. I've witnessed a lot of the testimonials that
yeah.
you've been sharing. So I'm so happy that you have taken your experience and
Hmm.
brought it to others so that they can ease their way through this exam, which I'm sure it's a challenge in it
Oh
of
yes.
itself. But so thankful that you are leading the way there. Now, as we're leading into or leaning into leadership, what qualities do
Mm.
you believe are essential for effective leadership in the field of social work?
So I definitely feel that some of the essential qualities would be a leader in social work typically needs empathy, ethical integrity, usually strong communication, resilience. And the empathy allows us to understand, connect with both our clients as well as our team members. Ethical integrity is crucial for navigating the complexities that come with being a social worker and trying to navigate some of those moral landscapes that social workers often encounter. So we also have to be really good at effectively communicating um, the needs of our clients to others that we may partner with, helping them to clearly convey what their vision, their needs are. And resilience is a vital part of social work and handling some of the emotional and logistical challenges that come with the work itself, no matter what part of social work that social worker may be in.
Now, you just shared some key points to making a strong leader. So, can you share a specific example from your own experience where a strong leadership positively impacted the outcomes for your clients or those that you serve?
So if I have to think back before I was a consultant and having my own practice, probably one of the examples I would probably bring up is um, just a brief story of adopting a client-centered approach to service others. So usually with a vulnerable group, I worked with as a psychotherapist in an outpatient setting, working from patients that range from 18 to I think the oldest at the time was 95 years old. And I did that for many years, but I constantly would have to reallocate resources to more critical areas, even at times advocating for policy changes that affected my clients on a macro level, not just in my indirect practice work directly with them. And also trying to help improve the outcomes of my clients through policy and engaging my team members as well and training them, especially if they're new social workers, on trying to make sure that they were using evidence based practices to help those clients achieve their clinical goals. So for me, leadership look like in that setting, accumulating knowledge as a growing clinician at the time, and using my skill sets of investing in trainings that would help my population. A lot of times in my job, I was doing program development. So using my leadership skills in terms of training, if I became, for example, a trained grief therapist, and I was the only one on my team that could do grief therapy, I literally built grief crisis programs for one-on-one and group coaching that was built into the hospital's program development, as well as training my colleagues on that modality. I always loved to learn, so I was constantly learning about different treatments that would help my clients. And if I saw a need, I would go get trained on it, spend my own money to invest in it, and then train my team, and then go ahead and do a program development specifically for that need, that gap in services that needed to be filled. I did that for about 8 years, and that was cost 23 specializations that I ended up accumulating when I left my job as a clinical therapist. One of them example I could bring up was the grief, but there were several other gaps in services that I saw, such as play therapy, substance abuse recovery training, um, mindfulness meditation, those types of interventions that I knew would help my clients, that I would get trained on those modalities and bring them back not only to my clients or building a program for them, but also to my team to train them.
That's so important to go get what you need, not only train yourself or get trained yourself, but bring
Mhm.
it back for your folks to be able to develop those skills as well through the trainer. That's how we call it in the military. And I know you've done some military work, some yeah. So
Yes, yes, yes,
so,
yes, yes.
you talk about mindfulness, and that's something that's big now for those that are transitioning out of the military, trying to get a balance and find their footing in this big world that we come into. So, thank you for all of that, and thank you for investing in yourself. Number one, but also for bringing it back and investing in your people. Also, qualities of great leadership. Now, you mentioned earlier ethics and morality and things like that that are challenges in, and I would say, many leadership roles, regardless of the specialty. So, how do you navigate the ethical complexities that arise when balancing the needs of clients, organizational goals, and the broader social justice issues in your leadership role?
Whew, that's a lefty question. So navigating some of those ethical complexities. If I could be a little bit more broad, because in reference to just ethical uh, code that we have, we often as social workers will face different types of ethical dilemmas, and they can range from, it requires more so of a balance of balancing our own clinical judgment with the needs of our clients and interests of the community as a whole. Often, social work leaders might describe employing a transparent decision making process that involves consulting with a team, clients, and other stakeholders who may have a direct impact on those clients' treatment. They might emphasize the importance of adhering to professional ethical standards, values as a guiding compass in those situations. And sometimes what's written in our ethical code, usually it's important for us to go and help with um, getting supervision ourselves or even mentorship. For example, when I used to work in hospice, oftentimes we would have family members that would have rights to the client's care. However, the client was competent to do treatment, right? To stop their treatment, to take control of their treatment. So we would have to adhere to our own ethical code of self determination and adhere to the client wants and needs compared to what their family wants. That will be an ethical dilemma, because yes, we want to adhere to the family's concerns and needs. They have legal rights of that client's care. However, if the client is competent to take control of their care, then they have a right to determine how those services are done or whether they want to continue or not. That's up to them, despite what the family's concerns are. That would be an ethical dilemma I faced in my own experience of working in hospice. Now, that's just one. There are several different examples of overlapping ethical dilemmas that often social workers have to navigate as a social worker, no matter what the field is. or microfield rather. There are numerous fields in social work, not just hospice or mental health, policy, legal, administration, schools. We're everywhere. So it really rank. The one thing I can say is that they teach us that if we do have an ethical dilemma, one, see a supervisor or a mentor or someone to walk you through that. Don't just go through it on your own because your license is at stake and we're held to a higher standard once we do have a license.
Yeah, very important. And there are other entities or organizations and licensures that share the same ethical challenges. Now, I love that you mentioned, hey, if you're having one of those challenges, don't go at it alone. And a lot of our solutions are and come through collaboration, right? And you mentioned, hey, a mentor or somebody that knows a little more can ease your way through those ethical dilemmas, any dilemma that you may have as a leader. So thank you for sharing that. Now, in what ways do you foster a culture of collaboration, empathy, and inclusivity within your organization?
So my organization is built a little bit different in a sense that my team more so is just making it more efficient for me to do the work that I do with my colleagues. But the one thing I can say in fostering collaboration and empathy and inclusivity is keeping a open line of communication, encouraging my team members to share their insights, their experiences, and actively working to build an environment where diversity is valued and is inclusive um, for them. I think it's important for leaders to have regular team building activities and workshops to cultivate empathy and inclusivity, especially where you have different diverse perspectives. Even if I'm the captain on the ship, it doesn't mean that I can kind of mold everybody to go in one direction. I have to allow for input. So it's always important to know that even if you're the leader, input from your team is vital because they do have specific roles that they play and they also have different gifts, which is why they're in those positions. So allowing them to um, have that safety net where they can talk about giving their input of what will work is important for you to be an effective leader.
I totally agree. And as a naval service member, thank you for using that reference as the captain on the ship because that really tugged at my
My
heart.
dad was in the Navy for 30 years. So, yeah.
Well, thank him for the service, and I know that you appreciate service members. I know you work in that
Hmm.
field and help out the service members. So thank you for that as well. No, great points on collaborating through communication. That is so key and vital. I remember doing a survey on leadership, and that was the most glaring violation that leaders had, right? In terms of not being effective and efficient, it was through communication. So very key in that aspect. So, what strategies do you employ to promote self care? This is such a big thing among
Hmm.
those that provide services, right? So self care and resilience for yourself.
Um, Flexible work schedules, not just for me, but for my team members, providing access to mental health resources and just trying to cultivate a culture where time off or self care is normalized. I know in my work I've seen as well as experience the kind of the demonization of taking time off work and experiencing toxic work cultures where taking time off work was more of an anxiety inducing thing than something that was looked upon to do to maintain yourself. So for me at least, I cultivate a lot of encouraging my colleagues to take time off, even the colleagues that I serve, as it's needed to maintain their own mental wellness, their well being, and they're just a resilience. It's important to set boundaries and encouraging self reflection. I even have to do that. And I'm constantly always working on it because for me, it changes depending on what's going on in my personal and professional life.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, especially on these feelings from organizations that say, "Hey, we gave we gave you some paid time off, but you can't take it." Right? It's like,
Yeah.
all right, well, when am I going to care? for myself. And that's a huge dilemma for those that are working out there in service based industries where, if you don't have the throughput of customers and someone there to face them and bring them in, uh, those people, they try to take a break, and we know that that's a very taxing and laborsome job, trying to bring in people, the sales community, the retail community, and you say, "Hey, I'm going to take a break," and they're like, what is that?" so, so
Yes.
I'm glad that you brought that up, and I hope that the listeners are also agreeing that, hey, we need time for ourselves to reflect, to reset sometimes, to get right on the mind, the heart, the soul, the spirit, however you want to do it. But you have to get right in order to do right. And a lot of those that are relying on us as a service provider are looking to make sure that you are doing that, because the last thing you want to do is start giving advice under duress. Now, what do you have coming up, and how can they get a hold of you, the listener?
Well, what I would say is I'm on virtually every platform. Out there right now. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, have a podcast. Basically, if you Google my name, you'll find me in a nutshell. I'm pretty reachable. If depending on what platform you live on, you can send me a direct message, and I usually always respond. If not, then my assistant will definitely get back to you about what times I'm available to be reached. But right now, I'm just going to grind up just doing what I do best, and that's helping my colleagues pass. There may be some things coming up, but I usually will just announce them when they do. So right now, I'm just staying in purpose of staying in my lane and my purpose and getting those social risk passport exams.
Well, I'm glad that you have chosen to take your journey, which is allowing others to take theirs. And so, thank you so much for not only being that light to those that want to get into the social work field, but allowing them a chance where they thought they didn't have. And I see a lot of the accolades that come your way, or the testimonials of people that have been impacted by what you do. So, keep doing that, and
Thank you.
keep shining. Now, folks, today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, The Outlier Project, and Duco. And if you've enjoyed today's episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment. And we're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at Triad Leadership Solutions at gmail.com. And this podcast is brought to you by StreamYard. It allows me to not only provide a quality show for you, but it makes my job a whole lot easier. And we're using it to record this podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.